Stop! Sure you want the rest of it?
Dirty Harry Minute. Dirty Harry Minute. Dirty Harry Minute Podcast. Dirty Harry Minute Podcast.
Every penny's worth.
Welcome back to Dirty Harry Minute, a podcast reviewing every moment of Dirty Harry Windsor of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and his rookie partner Meghan Markle. I'm one of your hosts, John, and I'm joined today with usual co-host Tim.
Hello.
How are you, Tim?
Good. We're finally at the last
few minutes of Dirty Harry?
Yes. And congratulations to you, John.
Oh, thank you very much.
You've been the mainstay.
Yeah. I'll be so glad when this is finished. We are joined by past guest, one part of the Spit and Polish podcast, Bartek.
Hello, everyone. Hello, listening people.
Now, did you know you were going to be on a podcast talking about the King and Queen, or the future King and Queen of England, maybe?
You know, I think last year and a half ago, I was playing Celebrity Heads with my family, and they gave me one of the royal family, and because I don't know anything about the royal family, they told me I was living under a rock. So you've picked a very unfortunate guest.
Sergeant Rock. Well, thanks for joining us again, Bartek, and you have a friend with you. Would you like to introduce Will?
Sure. Everyone, meet Will.
Hi, Will.
Hello, everyone. I'm William. Oh, sorry, I had the mic too close. Hello, everyone. I'm William. How are you all doing today?
So we're talking about your brother today, if you're William.
Oh, yeah.
William of Windsor.
The less sexy one. He's taller, but he's got no hair.
It's very nice to say to someone you just met.
The one who had Prince Charles for the dad, not Captain James Hewitt. Sorry.
I don't know what that means, but I'm laughing.
And our usual co-host, Trent. Hello, Trent.
there. How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. We're winding up.
You hate this movie now, don't you?
Yep.
Only another 4 to go.
And we are very, very pleased to be joined all the way from the northeastern seaboard of America, one part of the wonderful Spinal Tap Minute. We have Sean German. Hello, Sean.
Oh, hello. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Are you a big Dirty Harry fan, Sean?
I admit I'm not a huge Dirty Harry fan. I've seen the film. I enjoy the film, but it's I'm becoming a fan. This is one of those movies that I originally saw before this movie by minutes format came about, and now rewatching it with this in mind and looking at it this level of detail and listening along with the podcast has kind of given me a new appreciation. So that's kind of a long way of saying yes. I'm a huge Dirty Harry fan.
Are you a big fan of Prince Harry?
Yes, I am.
Wrong answer. Well, thanks all for joining us. Today we are reviewing minute 98. The minute begins with Harry picking out his silver police badge from its black mounting and ends on a rolling credit of Sid Kleinman, played by Maurice S. Argent. What did you think of this minute, Bartek?
It was a very poignant last minute. It's the first time I think I've been on this podcast where I've been talking about a minute, or I will be talking about a minute that doesn't have any dialogue. But within the context of the whole film, it matches where it was leading up to, I think.
Will, do you think it's really a bit gimmicky, the specific insert of the badge? Like, do we really need that? Isn't it...
No, I like the whole... He whips out his, I'm not sure what you would call that device, sort of your police wallet, and pulls out the golden police star and, hurls it. I don't think it's gimmicky that the star comes out.
Do you think, Tim, the badge looks like it's going to hurt Eastwood's fingers? Sean, do you think it looks realistic, this badge? Does it look like a toy badge you'd find in a cereal box, Sean?
I buy it. I think it looks real. I mean, I haven't seen too many badges up close. Fortunately, not too many run-ins with the law. But I kind of like. I think the badge looks real. It's got a nice look to it, and I like this kind of the way this caps off the journey we've been on with Harry. I like this moment.
John, I think my first thought was, oh, that could be a fake badge, but then, like Sean said, like, what does a real badge look like? So,
A fake badge has to be based on a real badge.
Well, Sean, is it a real thing you get these badges in cereal boxes and police paraphernalia stuff? Is that just in movies and The Simpsons?
Well, no. This being America, I think we're more likely to have the 44 Magnum in a cereal box. Get Junior start off early with his firearms.
We got imitation magnums. We got imitation magnums in our show bags. Like the Melbourne show did a Police Academy show bag, and that came. I don't think it came with the badge, did it, Trent?
I can't remember. Yeah,
Definitely a magnum and a.
the Dick Tracy one did that had the superior hat and pistol.
when I think of like toy badges, it's usually with isn't it like a sheriff? Type, and it just looks very childish in a way.
maybe it's the star shape, because the badge in this film is sort of star shaped as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, and I wonder if because this is, he's got a little wallet with his identification with the badge. Are there different types of badges? Is there a different badge that's meant to be, worn on the lapel or pinned to your jacket versus the badge that you keep in your pocket? Also, this badge has 7. It's a star shape, but it's got 7 points.
Yeah,
which I think is unusual. I would think if I, without looking, I would have guessed it'd be like a 6-pointed star or something like that. But it is kind of an odd to see 7 points like that, or at least I thought it was odd.
It has to be 7 points, Sean, because in one of the sequels, he tells Briggs to shove it up your ass. A 7-point suppository, he calls it. So,
So they were planning ahead.
Wow.
they thought ahead. Is that a stunt hand, Will? Is that Clint Eastwood's hand? It looks a bit hairy.
Oh, it does look a bit hairy, but I want to believe it's really him. But maybe the badge was just that sharp that you had to bring in the stunt man. Those edges look sharp, all 7 of them.
Could be Clyde the orangutan a few years before Every Which Way But Loose.
If it is Clint's hand, he's very well manicured.
He is.
The nails are in very good shape for this guy who's out on the street living this rough and tumble life of a police inspector. But the nails are very well filed off and shaped.
No,
Yeah.
it's a stunt hand. Eastwood wouldn't have those knuckle fuzz. It just looks a bit weird.
You reckon?
His index finger.
I reckn he would.
I'm going to put my hands in my pockets so you don't
He looks
laugh
like
at
a pretty
mine.
hairy guy,
Yeah.
doesn't he?
He's got a lot of top hair, hasn't he? But his chest in movies is pretty waxed. It's really pretty. Yeah.
It's hilarious you know that. Yeah.
Now, famously, Clint practiced like throwing the whole morning while the camera crew was setting up. Apparently, he practiced throwing stones to sort of get Perseus on what the badge would be. Because on the day, Siegel apparently only had 1 badge, which seems a bit irresponsible. A prop girl not to have, or prop boy, sorry, to only have 1 badge there, only 1 shot at it.
He does throw it like those people throw the rocks.
I did notice his technique was very much like rock skipping. Like at first I was thinking, like, is he going to throw it kind of like Ninja Star style, or is he just going to chuck it like a rock? But no, he did it like the rock skipping sideways kind of thing.
Yeah. Do we think maybe, has he done this before? Is this the way Harry celebrates, the end of the case? He's kind of closed things out on Scorpio here, and so does he have like a box of badges back at home and he just reloads for the next one?
Previous guest Glyn was saying that it's just a sissy fit. It's a tantrum all the time, and he goes back and he goes, "Sorry, boss, I threw the badge again." And he goes, "Why? I was feeling stuff, manly stuff." And it's just a sissy fit.
That really takes out the poignancy of like what this means, I guess.
I'm just shocked there's no lens flare on the badge, Sean. Wouldn't you like to see a lens flare on the badge? Go Michael Bay style when he throws it?
Oh, absolutely. Everything's better with lens flare. Yeah, no doubt.
Does anyone have any idea what a real police ID looks like nowadays? Like, is it just like a little card like that?
Maybe. I thought a gun just did the talking in America.
Because I often think, you know how people say, oh, always check for ID when police knock on your door. But it's like, what does that prove, really?
Yeah.
You know, like
Well, remember Samuel L. Jackson in Jumper? He's like pretending to be the IRS, he's pretending to be the NSA, and he's just using the same badge, or he's got a whole box full of them.
Jumper minute coming soon.
jump to the end on that one.
Jump to the end, exactly.
You know what? On my podcast, we recently did Jingle All the Way, and there is a scene in that film where Arnold Schwarzenegger is in a warehouse where fake Santas are, making counterfeit toys, and the police raid it as like a joke of like, this is a black market thing. And at one point, when the police come in, he picks up a toy badge and pretends that he's a police officer, and he completely fools them. So maybe that lends some credence to the theory that maybe this badge isn't so legit. And I believe the toy badge was the kind that has this like wallet thing going on.
What do we learn from what we can see on that badge? The ID. There's not much there.
Well, he's not centered in the photo, I notice now.
Yeah.
It's got the 7-star.
He's too cool to be centered in the photo.
It's got the 7-point star in the background.
Oh, it does.
Sean, are you looking on Blu-ray, Sean? Quite often his name is misspelt, sometimes with 2 L's, sometimes with 1 L, the Callahan. What does it say? I think it's got 2 L's here, Callahan. But in the script, it's just with 1. These are the big issues, Sean. These are the big issues.
Yeah. I'm having trouble making out the name because it's behind at least the particular frame I have, it's behind a shadow from his hand.
Yeah.
So I can see Harry, but I can't see the last name. Although I did find it interesting. So it's got the number, the 2211, but it doesn't say badge number. No. It says star number.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, it's definitely not badge. It's some 4-letter word. It's I don't have it on Blu-ray. I have a DVD copy, so I don't have the full high-def experience. But it looks like it says star number.
Did you say high def or high death experience? The badge has the number 2211. In previous minutes, we discussed the imagery of, Scorpio is Harry's doppelganger. He's double-sided. Now he's killed him, so he has to get rid of the badge symbolically because he's got rid of his enemy, blah, blah, blah. Do you like those sort of theories, Sean? Or are they overthinking it?
No, I don't think you're overthinking at all. I love those theories. I think, and especially because I'm sure that the filmmakers thought nothing of it. They maybe just, picked a number at random and it doesn't mean anything, but we can bring meaning to it as an audience. And that's what really counts, what we think.
I also like, obviously, the symbolism. He's throwing away his badge into the same tainted water that he's dispatched Scorpio into. These 2 worthless items. Both the horrible maniac killer who's now dead, this piece of shit, and the badge that's equally just as meaningless.
You can buy replicas of that exact badge wallet and that for $150.
Wow.
The photo's a little bit different on there.
Seems a bit much.
But there is a variety of them on there. You could probably get some cheap shit ones with... Yeah, anyway.
I mean, if you're going to throw the badge into a lake, you probably don't want the $125 one.
That's right. Exactly.
2211... Is 22nd of November in the Scorpio range, or is that entering Sagittarius?
That's a good question.
Because that would fit John's point of entering the same water as Scorpio. Because I think it's just outside the range, because it ends on the 20th, right?
Just looking it up.
You're asking the wrong Dr. Jones. I mean,
to the 22nd of November.
Oh, to the 22nd of November.
Well, there you go.
Are you a Sagittarius? Are you a Scorpio, Sean?
No, but I did date a Scorpio in high school, and it's at least in my experience, Scorpios are interesting characters, very strong-willed, which I think is appropriate for Harry here as well. But that would be right on the cusp. Like, that's the very last day. You're right on the line at the end of Scorpio, November 22nd.
So there you go. He's conflicted. even in his own range of designation, he's, not a classic Scorpio.
Maybe he thinks that he himself is a Scorpio.
I mean, that's definitely got to be... If that's like one of the last days of Scorpio and he throws it into the same river that dead Scorpio's in.
Beautiful.
Harry knows his
That's
star
got to be
signs.
intentional. That's a really nice touch.
Trent, have you ever thrown anything away symbolically, like your last day of work, here's a pen, I'll throw it in, or something?
I've definitely thrown things out of frustration, but I don't know if I...
Usually it's with regret afterwards.
Yeah.
Throw it.
I was putting up some blinds a couple of weeks ago, and one of them kept falling down. I threw it like a javelin into a bookshelf. Does that help?
What about you, Sean? Anything come to mind that you've just thrown away in haste?
No, but now I really want to. Now I need to... I need to kill someone and dump the body in a body of water, and then... I don't know, maybe I can throw a laptop or my phone or something. Or no, a microphone. Being a podcaster, I can throw my microphone away.
Exactly.
Be a symbolic rebirth. There you go.
Yep.
To end this episode, let's all throw something.
Do we know what the first day of shooting was? What scene? Just out of curiosity.
We know they did most things in continuity, so it could very well have been the rooftop sniping scene with Andy Robertson. I'm not sure.
The reason I ask is it's coincidental that his ID photo matches up with pretty much it. That wasn't issued
right.
10 years ago. It's, yeah.
In a nod to this, maybe later in The Rookie with Clint and Charlie Sheen, Charlie Sheen's really angry. He's lost his badge at the bike when he gets in the fight at the biker hangout. And he goes, what am I to do? God, I lost my badge. And Clint goes, well, fill a report and get another one, asshole. So maybe badges aren't that important.
The photo is a bit off center.
Yeah.
Like what? It's an action shot, not a profile. Also, I looked up, I googled the San Francisco badges, and it's not by department, it's by ranking or class. So it's inspector, SF police, but they've got other ones that say captain.
Yes,
or,
we heard that inspector is a very British-sounding rank, but apparently it's in Northern California or the Bay Area. It's a common rank.
Well, I'm seeing lieutenant, captain, sergeant, and then there's just San Francisco police. That must be for Chico. He doesn't have a ranking yet.
Well, Police Academy clearly wasn't set in California because there's no inspectors in that from memory.
Yeah, this bad. Looking at the photos on Tim's iPad, it looks fairly accurate, actually.
Yeah.
Will,
Yes.
basic question, why does Harry throw the badge away? Is it because he just realises the only way he could stop Scorpio was to just ignore everything the badge and its authorities were telling? Is it?
Yeah, I think it was he just, in order to defeat the villain, in order to defeat Scorpio, he had to go outside of the law, outside of what the mayor wanted, and he's just, I think he's a bit disgusted at the law in that moment. He's had enough. He's like, I want it out of my life.
Didn't we already establish the answer? He realised his badge number was Scorpio. So, yeah.
I will say, this was my third time watching the film, and in that first scene where he's talking to the mayor, that whole notion of putting the law behind him was really, really emphasized for me there. Like, just nothing was going his way. He was getting interrupted. It felt like you need to give this guy his way because he knows what he's talking about.
If nothing else, it's just, we've got an actor here, Will, Chekhov's gun, because he said like 2 or 3 times, do you want my star? And if the mayor wants my badge, he can have it. So he has to, the badge, something happened to the badge.
Yeah, it has come up a lot, so got to do something with it.
But then he also said it'll blow your head clean off, and he's never shot any of his criminals in the head, so tease.
Maybe if we were to force an alternative reading, he's throwing his badge somewhere where no one can reach it. It's like, can't fire me if you don't take my badge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do think that there is, there's a lot that leads up to this moment that for me at least, it doesn't feel like this is a snap decision. He's been drifting away from the department, away from the law, away from the police in general, and to a certain extent, society as a whole. He's been kind of drifting and it's been building, and now he's just done with it.
There's a moment, though, where Harry looks to the left. Is he just making sure no one sees him throw it? Or maybe that was in the minute beforehand.
Yeah. Well, what is he? Is he maybe looking for the kid that he almost shot? The kid that Scorpio had?
I thought the kid ran to the
hey,
right.
where'd that kid go off to, Or maybe he's wondering, okay, how am I going to get home? Is that bus still around? Maybe he's looking for a ride.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be a lot more powerful if you had Harry walking in the or maybe he is walking in the direction back to see if the kids in the bus are okay. But yeah, earlier on in the minute, I've seen it now. He looks to the left. Is he worried that someone's going to see him throw away his badge? Does he have? Well, I wonder why he looks that way, Bartek. Or is it just acting?
I can't imagine he'd be worried about anything in this moment, so it is curious. It almost feels like the next shot should be like what he's looking at in a way. Or maybe the film just doesn't really want us to know like his exact thoughts at that moment, so I was leading into saying, maybe it was up for interpretation, but I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe he's thinking ahead, like, what do I do after I throw the badge? I guess I'll walk left, because he does walk left. Though from our perspective, it's right. That's how perspectives work.
It's probably just me, but I think Clint looks really fucking hot.
In what way?
In the bit where he looks to the left and then he's like, I don't know, it's...
You like his profile of his head?
Don't tell my wife, but when he's sort of, he's resigned to throwing it, looking up. But pause, when he piffs it, yeah.
Yeah, I like how the left part of his cheek kind of goes in.
A precursor to his Skeletor days.
For the record, listening people, we've got it paused on that exact moment.
Now, Sean, Clint originally thought that it was a bridge too far for his Harry to quit. He wanted a compromise where these shots we're seeing now, he was thinking about it, but in the end, he put it away. And Don Siegel had to work apparently really hard to convince him, no, you've had it. You want to get out of the police force. And Clint originally said,
Clint got his own back by making 5 sequels or whatever it was. Clearly, he didn't. It wasn't a long-term decision.
He finally came to the realization, if they're going to ask for my badge, they're going to have to fish for it.
They should have just made this in Magnum Force. You know how like some sequels just continue on straight from the first film, and you see what happened after when he got back to the police station.
So like the beginning of Magnum Force would be him like waving into the bus, being like, "You all right, everyone?"
Yeah. And they're all dead.
That's morbid, Tim.
Now I've seen this film before. I have not seen any of the sequels. Is he back on the force? Is he police again in the sequel?
Yeah, in the next sequel, Magnum Force, he's been demoted. He's on stakeout, and his new enemy in the department, Lieutenant Briggs, reluctantly, well, I won't give away the plot, but has to call him back from stakeout where he's been demoted. So,
Sean, you should watch the second one at least. They get progressively worse from there.
Yeah, I haven't really tested everyone's machete order, but for me it's pretty much 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, with the Deadpool being the shittest. Yeah.
I'd go 1, 3, 2, 4, 5.
You prefer Enforcer to Magnum?
Yeah,
Really?
I much prefer Enforcer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. No Lalo music in that.
No. But then Lalo comes back with the synthesizers and the drum machines for the 80s, and what's the sudden impact?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
So Will and I also haven't seen any of the sequels. Would you say that like the worst one in your opinion is straight up bad or just not as good?
like, I wouldn't rewatch it. No real interest to rewatch it. I mean, it's
Right.
sort of typical late 80s. It doesn't feel any different to
It's almost
second
movie
rate.
of the week.
Which one was your last one?
The Deadpool.
Really?
And the villain, you can't even remember the villain.
I put Sudden Impact last, which is the fourth one.
It's pretty shit as well.
Yeah, it's just it's more like a film that's not Dirty Harry, and they've just sort
Yeah.
of crowbarred Dirty
He sort
Harry
of cameos in his
Yeah.
own movie.
Even plenty of the other films he made at that time feel more like a Dirty
Yeah,
Harry
like
movie
Tightrope
than-
we've discussed. Tightrope's...
Yeah.
Now, Sean, did Spinal Tap ever receive a novelisation, the movie? It'd be quite hard, wouldn't it? Impossible, actually, yeah.
There was not a novelization of This Is Spinal Tap, but I'm very curious to read. If there was one, I'd love to read it.
Well, I've got a quote here from the novelisation about... It's on the last page. Apologies, Sean, for my American accent. It was over, and he hadn't done a thing right. Scorpio now lay dead in a ditch, but he had placed 12 innocent lives in jeopardy. The DA Rothko would have a field day with this report. Harry slipped his magnum into its holster. If he was smart, he would toss the gun into the water, and his badge right after it. Harry sat down in the tall grass, feeling suddenly weary. The end. Do you prefer that version, Will, as an actor? Or is Clint capable of doing weary?
I think you could do Weary. I think you could do Weary.
Do you like the notion of some third person narrating, judging Clint Eastwood being like, if he was smart?
If he's just going to say that out loud, if I was smart, I would throw the gun away.
No,
into
not
the
Clint
water
Eastwood,
and then-
some third person voice.
The kid who was just being held hostage. If you were smart, mister, you would throw that gun away and your badge too. So no, I'm going to sit down. I'm weary. I can't do Clint Eastwood. I can't even get close.
Sean,
Yes, Jeff.
you can't see me, but I'm a short ass. I've been told that tall people have difficulty sitting down, like cross-legged. I'm assuming that's how Harry would have sat down. Can you imagine Clint Eastwood sort of sitting down, just going, ugh, looking weary, and then the camera zooming out?
No, I don't know if that. I mean, I can imagine what that would look like, but I don't know if I like that. I mean, because then do we have him like he takes his shoes off and rolls up his pants and takes wades into the water? Do we want that?
And like John McClane in Die Hard, he's sort of like clenching his feet, getting ready.
Yeah, yeah. Now, actually, talking about that passage you read and endings, I wonder. I was thinking about a different ending with a little bit of ambiguity. If they show him, holding the badge in his hand or the star after taking it out of the wallet, and then just cut to him walking away, and don't show him actually throw it, and kind of leave that a little ambiguity there. I thought that might have been an interesting ending if they had chosen to go that way.
That would have been really good.
What do you guys think?
I reckon that, yeah.
Once again, it all comes down to whether Clint could pull that off, and maybe he can do. Maybe he can do weary and. I don't know if he can do conflicted. He just looks so damn decisive. Whatever he does, Bartek.
No, I think the film does it fine with the whole ambiguity thing, and it's illustrated further, emphasized, I should say, with what we see next, which is where he's walking away, and the camera's far from him and moving away from him as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. You zoom out and you see how modernity, the city is encroaching. It's not far off. The old West is gone. And like a lot of classic noir movies, this is how they end, in an industrial location. But now, cheap fuel, the oil embargo hasn't happened yet. You have a helicopter zoom out shot to add to the classic noir ending.
Are we sure Scorpio's dead? Is he? He's not floating in the water going, help me, help me.
Did you not hear the novelization?
Remember, in the novelisation, he's just in an irrigation ditch. That's how it's described, not a pond, an irrigation ditch.
There was also grass that Harry could reasonably sit in the novel.
That's interesting you just raised the oil crisis. Because when was that? 73?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to look at Hollywood films that came out after then for a certain number of years to see if the number of helicopter shots turned into cherry picker shots. Not taking the piss, but did it have that sort of impact? Yeah. Anyway.
Sean, going back to... So you'd like to see a bit more... How did you describe it at the end? A bit more ambiguity as to what Harry really felt? Mm-hmm. Are you basically saying... A lot of our guests are saying... Harry isn't successful as a modern hero because he doesn't have any character development. He's pretty much always known his superiors are assholes, and he's always rolling his eyes at them. The only character development he really has is now at the end when he goes, "I'm not doing this anymore," but we know he comes back for the sequels. So is it a problem that Harry doesn't have any development, his character in this movie? Or do you think he does develop, Sean?
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot in that question. I kind of lean towards there's not much development. There isn't a real character arc. He's kind of, he's jaded and has not no respect for the rules, but he comes in having the reputation. They say, hey, he's Dirty Harry. He hates everyone equally. He kind of plays by his own rules and his own code of ethics and his version of the law. And, that's from the beginning. And then we see it right through to the end. But I don't think that's, there's a lot of movies like that, and a lot of great movies that show you a character and introduce you to someone and show, invite you into, their world, Harry's world in this case, without necessarily an arc or a lot of change in the character.
Yeah, you're actually touching on something that I wanted to say. If you want to argue that he doesn't have character development or a character arc, I might agree with you, but I would emphasize that he definitely has a lot of characterization. Because in this film, I was saying this to Will on the way to this recording, you don't learn his full story by watching this film.
No, you have to listen to this podcast.
You have to listen to John, Tim, and Trent on Dirty Harry Minute. But you do see a lot of snippets of his life throughout the film. You see that he's familiar at this diner. You see how he is at different types of jobs, whether he's investigating or helping a suicide jumper.
It really is like the Star Wars theory of a used universe.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty successful on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he starts off being uncaring towards Chico, but warms up to him. When he actually has a conversation with a woman, Chico's lover, he talks about his wife. You learn about him through watching him working on this one random case that has nothing to do with his past.
But is that good enough, Will? Characterization, yes, little dots on the way, but no development. Is that a stumbling block for modern audiences?
I don't think so necessarily. It's not every character has to change. Some can be static and stay the same. I greatly enjoyed the film. I greatly enjoyed Harry's characterization. I don't think it's actually like a hard rule. It's all these characters that have to change in some way, even if most do. And most stories do need a character, to change, but I don't think absolutely everyone does.
I get a feeling we expected more villains, maybe, Tim.
Well, I think this part with him throwing the badge is significant in the way that he doesn't really develop much, over the arc of the film, but he, I guess it's ramming home the point that he thinks the law doesn't really give justice in the way he wants to dish it out.
I've got a nice quote here, guys, and this is from the New York Times review. A large number of Siegel films end with a crane shot that pulls back into a rising perspective that, if not quite cosmic, imposes a much wider context on the story we have just seen. In Dirty Harry, the slow, magisterial withdrawal from the details of the quarry carry an eerie, philosophic detachment. Isn't that well written, Tim?
I wasn't really listening.
Well, Sean, it's such a staple now, these zoom out shots in action movies that have come down through the years, that now you see it, you sort of roll your eyes a bit. But maybe this was one of the first sort of times it happened. Do you still get bored by these zoom outs in cop movies, Sean? No.
I think I certainly like the way it's used in this case. I think it's a nice ending, particularly. I'll just say that I do like the ending, and I think it kind of, there's like a pause between kind of just seeing Harry alone in the landscape before the credits start rolling to really end things for us. But no, I like, and it gives, I always get, perspective to see he's one man and he's small when you compare him to the larger world. When we're up close, when, for the bulk of this minute, we're very close. And I can imagine, I didn't see this film in the theater. I've only watched it at home on television, but I can imagine in the theater where it's, Clint's head, Harry's head takes up the whole screen.
Yeah.
We see a little bit of his collar and his neck, but it's basically just from the neck up. So his head would be huge if you were seeing this in a theater, and you kind of see like here's this larger than life, this sort of super cop that brought down this villain, and he's, a one-man wrecking crew. And then we immediately go from that to the other extreme where he's just a little blip, a little dot in the larger landscape to kind of like put things in perspective, that as rough and tough as this guy is, he's still just one man in this larger world. So I like that as an ending when it's done well, and I think it's done well here.
To quote Spinal Tap, though, is it too much fucking perspective? Sorry.
Yeah, too much perspective.
Trent, is Scorpio a good bad guy in your books?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, you get the full gauntlet of emotions there, and that's fun to watch, isn't it? When you see them really pushing it to the edge and believably losing the plot, not like a cartoon character. And he's passable as a cartoon character too, but yeah, he's great.
I think there's halfway through the film you sort of go, this guy's really off the edge.
Yeah.
Like
and it's because he doesn't really have a motive. He clearly doesn't give a rat's ass about the money that
That's right.
we've established before.
Well, to quote Harry in an earlier scene, he kills because he likes it.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, because I sort of like it too. We forgot to mention in previous minutes, in the bus, the kid, the fat guy goes, I want my mommy.
I can relate.
It's just the juvenile version of I want a lawyer. They're both kids, basically.
Oh, so you're saying they're parallels?
Yeah.
And so started a new Scorpio story. So in the reboot, that character.
And that child's birthday? November 22nd.
Yep.
John, you know how in previous minutes we've had this theory that the chief was a ghost?
Yeah, ghost chief,
Well, what if Chief and Mayor were both ghosts and Harry's imagining that he's got a badge and, and a police ID and he's just been doing this as a vigilante, basically?
Well, he definitely is a vigilante.
I think it would be remiss not to mention the music in this ending, because we talked about the shot framing and what's going on and how it's a big trope. But I think the music also plays into the effectiveness of the ending.
I believe Netflix would describe it as somber. Contemplative, maybe.
It's just on this bit. It's just a Fender Rhodes solo, isn't it? It's not. There's no other instruments.
That's all it is.
Overdubbed, is there? Yeah. I actually think it might be two Fender Rhodes, like one overdubbed over the other.
There's a great YouTube clip of someone just playing it. Just sounds beautiful. Yeah.
Well, was it specifically written for this film, or was it a general thing?
Yeah, Lalo Schifrin wrote the whole score, except for that jazzy song. You gotta roll with it. He got his wife to do the lyrics.
Where's that?
In the titty bar scene.
Wow. I wasn't paying attention to the music.
Yeah, exactly.
Me neither, but I took an educated guess where the song would be.
I think the subtitles might have said there was some music, but yeah.
Somber.
My senses were elsewhere.
Sean, do you like Scorpio? A lot of people, the trend is now, you need to know the origin story of why he's fucked up.
Oh, Lord, no.
No?
Yeah,
Good.
no, I don't I like Scorpio as the villain, as the antagonist, as the foil or the opponent for Harry. But yeah, I don't want any backstory. I don't want to know where he comes from. I think it's much better with the mystery. And I also like it's a little. I thought this was a particularly realistic film that obviously the Scorpio is able to kind of come up with plans and do his commit his crimes, but then when he's faced with the police, he hasn't anticipated everything they might do, and he's not one step ahead of them the whole way. He doesn't have. Sometimes villains are too good. They seem to know too much. They've planned too far ahead, and that can, if it's not done well, that can kind of take me out of the fantasy of the film. I think Scorpio strikes a nice balance that he's not overly prepared or overly intelligent, but he is able to make some plans and get away with some crime. So he's not incompetent. But I like him in general as a villain, and I don't want I thought of and I was actually. I want to assure the listeners that I was not tipped off. I don't get these questions ahead of time, but I was thinking earlier today, and I thought of the Halloween remake by Rob Zombie, which has got all kinds of backstory there, and that's why I don't like that movie. The original Halloween, there's just this killer out. We really don't know about his upbringing, where he came from. I think if they did a similar remake of this that starts with kind of showing, young Scorpio as a child getting bullied or, getting rejected, trying to ask a girl to dance or something, and that's why he grows up to be this horrible person. I don't want to know that. We just know he's a bad man. He's out there. He's killing people, and only Harry can stop him. That's the way I like it.
Another podcast was talking about the modern trend of having to the backstory, and they said, no, it's like the Florida Man in America, where you see all the things Florida people do, like crazy stuff. You don't need to care about their motivations. It's just clickbait. What happened? But then I was thinking, I guess so, but maybe it's a bit more like those old Darwin Awards, where you hear about the lead up to why they made their stupid decision to put their dick into a power socket or whatever, and you want to know why the logic behind it. So.
It's funny you mentioned that. I watched the Joker the other day, and he was great, but then I kind of thought, like, it's a bit unnecessary, the whole just showing his backstory. I guess I just preferred Joker to just be a maniac.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Imagine that was a standalone film and it wasn't about that character or connected with it. It'd probably be brilliant.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Not to say it's not
just
brilliant.
Unrelated to Batman completely.
Yeah. Exactly.
Trent, what do you think as a 35-year-old about these old 70s end credits where they're just goodbye and all front-loaded at the start?
Yeah, I guess we grew up in a time when the end credits are top-heavy. Yeah. Or end-heavy, whichever way you like to look at it. It's interesting. It's actually a bit haunting in one respect because, there's a lot missing. And what about this person? Surely there was a carpenter who did this who should have been credited, or... What about
where's the best boy?
Yeah, where's the best boy?
Scorpio was the best boy.
The abrupt ending to the the ending of the credits, the ending of the story it's a bit whoo. That's it.
Ooh, do you want to say that for the next episode?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
How much can we talk about in the last 17 seconds?
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't really give you reflection time to think, what have I just seen? What are the implications of this movie?
It doesn't give you reflection time?
No, we'll just do-do-do-do-do. What do you think? Goodbye.
They need a post-credit sequence. That's the dead kids in the bus.
This podcast is that.
I don't know, I think the last 90 seconds of the entire film gives you reflection time. Doesn't it?
There's pretty big moral issues this movie brings up. You're a teacher, Bartek, aren't you a teacher?
I haven't started yet, but I have the degree.
Do you think this would be a good teacher's aid? Like the big themes of about Miranda rights, if you know those sort of things. Do you reckon you could teach this as a teachable film in class?
Probably not in Australia because it's rated a bit high, but I think my younger brother has literally done a media class where they've shown him Dirty Harry.
This one?
This one. Yeah. But yeah, I think that, the last 2 minutes of this film, it stops with dialogue. It has, slow development of, guy throws something and walks away over 2 minutes. It gives you plenty of time for contemplation, and the music isn't like, a lot of beats per minute or anything like that. It's slow, it's somber, as Tim said. I would have said melancholic because I'm pretentious. But yeah, plenty of reflection time, and I think that's something valuable in a film because those last 2 minutes could have all just been credits on a black screen, right?
So, guys, do you reckon the general change to the structure of credits in movies kind of changed the way they are structured? Like, the start is the bit where the credits are rolling. There's a big sequence with no dialogue, and here, and since there's not going to be a big credit sequence afterwards, like Bartek said, this last scene is very, slow and contemplative. Do you think maybe like working within the limitations of how they had to do the credits maybe affected how they structured the scripts and things?
Well, quite possibly. I guess the opening, as they were, they were more heavy. Kind of got you settled in more, whereas now, you rarely see opening credits in a Hollywood film. It's usually just the studio logo and then you're straight into it. It's like no one wants to... Oh, no, we'll lose them. If we've got credits, Jesus.
You also don't have to decide, like, what 2 songs from the time do we have to play over the black screen with words going over for like 5 minutes?
This Nickelback song or that Nickelback song? Tim, do you think the quarry workers would get the day off after this incident, or do you reckon... Oh, but there's only one. We've only seen one of them. Hey, you can't go in there.
Psychology counselling, maybe.
All right, folks, back to work.
And he probably passed all the dead kids on the bus as well.
Well, that's it. In a modern movie, as he's walking away, do you think you'd see, like, quarry workers running into the bottom of the frame to see what's happened, or...
Maybe.
If the climax was in the city itself, for sure it would be weird if there was no one around. But, like, from the... of the panning shot where we see the environment, like, the closest people are on, like, the highway in cars. It's not isolated of people, but they're pretty far away.
Just coming back to the point about whether there's enough time to contemplate, I think that, now that I think about it, the throwing the badge thing actually gives this a bit more impact. Because imagine you don't have this part where he's, looking at the value of that badge, and he shoots Scorpio and just walks away, and it just ends like that. It would kind of feel like an empty ending in a way.
Exactly. Tim agrees with me.
Key point. Yeah.
Well, it's true. The movie started with the memorial to dead cops, and it sort of had the badge at the start. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's a nice bookend. Do you think those cops on the in memoriam sort of respect Harry's methods as well? Do you reckon they'd be insulted to be lumped in with maybe a right-wing...
I was having a little bit of a giggle on the way here because Will and I were talking about that. It's funny that this film, the way that we've interpreted it is that, like, you have to work outside of the law to bring about justice, yet here are people that are being honoured for presumably working within the means of the law. But at least that clearly shows that the film respects the law in some ways, even though it says that the methods of the law can't be perfect, I guess.
Sean, how do you like your cinema cops? Do you like them on the edge, like Mel Gibson with a gun in his throat at the start of the movie, or do you like James Woods in The Hard Way? Who do you like?
James Woods in The Hard Way.
Who do you like?
I like James Woods in Cop, a thriller.
I think it's... this is not the way I want my police officers in the real world, but in the movies, in the fantasy land, it is interesting to see that dichotomy and that struggle, to see someone who is, they've dedicated their lives to enforcing the law, and then you see them put in situations where they need to stretch the rules a little bit or even break some of the rules sometimes in order to, breaking the law to enforce the law, preserve the law. There's a contradiction there. There's a struggle. And again, I don't necessarily want to see the police in real life, working outside the lines the way Harry does. But for a film, it makes for good entertainment and thoughtful entertainment.
Sean, I think you're trying to say that you like your type of cop is RoboCop. I myself prefer Maniac Cop.
Maniac Cop.
No love for End of Watch?
End of Watch. What's that?
End of Watch is a Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena film from like middle of the 2010s. It's sort of found footagey. They're like very modern police officers with like, this is around the time police officers now are wearing like cameras on themselves.
Yes.
And one of them's like doing a like university project where like he's filming himself at work, and it's basically following them on like their shifts, and it's like they're back and forth, but also when they go into work they're shifting into work mode. So it's very much a lot more realistic, but there's also like a deep plot that goes on, bit of a conspiracy, and I love that film. So it's those two would not work for Dirty Harry, obviously. But, if the cops fit the tone of the film, that's fine with me. But I think my favourite cops would be End of Watch.
My favourite cops are the ones in The Case of the Smiling Stiffs. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that. Sean S. Cunningham.
I
magic.
got that as a birthday present for a friend a few years ago.
Highest grossing R-rated film released in Australia for many, many years.
Isn't that a film where, like, a werewolf is killed by a silver penis or something?
Silvercock. That's the character's name. Silvercock.
Right.
Played by the late, great Harry Reams. It predates Jaws with a fin, shall we call it, prodding out of the water and moving along.
You know what? Originally, I was going to have a different friend of mine on, and that was the friend that I bought Case of Smiling Stiffs for.
Tim, I finally, at the start of this podcast, the French Connection was constantly brought up, right? Yes. Because it was 1971, and a lot of people think that's the superior film. I finally watched it, as you know, and I loved it.
You loved it?
I thought it was a really good movie. Have you guys seen it? Obviously, Trent and Tim have. Have you seen The French Connection, Will?
Oh, no, sorry, I haven't seen it, John.
I think I remember my family had an album from that. No, that was French Kiss.
Anyway. Sean, have you seen The French Connection, the original, with Roy Scheider and Hackman? Have you seen it?
And Gene Hackman? You know what? I don't think I have.
Whew, you were like me up until
Wow.
recently.
Yeah, we should probably watch it. I mean, I've heard many good things about it.
Yeah, Sean, you've got a list to watch. You've got to watch Dirty Harry 2, 3, 4, 5, and then The French Connection.
Yeah. and then French Connection. Now, how many French Connections are there? Are there 5 of those as well?
Just the 2, I think.
And End of Watch, guys. Come on. There's only one of those.
And RoboCop.
Anyway, Tim, I loved it.
Would you rate, what's his name? Doyle? Is that his...
Popeye Doyle, yeah.
Popeye Doyle.
Is he a better cop than Harry?
He's more of a brute. He's more of an arsehole than Harry. Don't you think?
Man, that's a high bar. God damn. I'm impressed. Count me impressed.
Bartek, they're both very different movies, but in one through line is they're both obsessed cops, right?
They're driven.
They're very driven. But Popeye's way more dirty. Like that scene at the bar, the shakedown and stuff. Like he's had a lot more Fillmore District incidents than Harry probably has.
I'd say Harry's more dedicated than obsessed. So if the other guy's as obsessed as you'd say, then
plus he has a
difference.
supportive chief. A guy's like, give him a break. You know, when the feds get involved, he's like, he's got good hunches and stuff. Anyway, as I always do, Sean, I've written down some similarities with Dirty Harry. Number one, they both open with a murder, right? You know, the guy with the baguette in the alleyway in French Connection, Tim. Anyway, starts with a murder. 2, there's a weird out-of-the-place fishing scene. Like the bad guy's fishing when he's in Marseille or something for no reason. 3, they both eat bad food. You've got hot dog versus the Subway toffee apple. You've got a rooftop sniper who leaves bullet casings there when the guy shoots down at Doyle. Both the heroes sweat more than is humanly possible. Both end at abandoned sort of industrial works. One's a water tap thing, and this has got the quarry here. And the most important one is that they're never off duty. Like the whole point of the movie is when he's at the restaurant and he goes, those guys, those gumbos at those table, they're a whole lot of wrong. And then that actually becomes the basis for the movie.
Oh yeah, Harry literally says at one point he was tailing Scorpio on his own time.
So obviously it's just an aside, a throwaway in Jaffe's bar or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but here it actually becomes the crutch of the movie. So
True. And they both have partners.
They do.
I'm sorry, did you say that Dirty Harry is an out-of-place fishing scene?
With a kid fishing at the quarry.
Okay.
I didn't think it was too out of place.
Just more like random, I suppose you mean?
It was more random in French Connection, when he's waiting for his connection, whatever.
yeah.
He's just fishing.
Now, John, are you going to take us through a list of comparisons between Dirty Harry and Mahoney from Police Academy?
Well, they're both Irish. They're both Irish names, Mahoney or Marnie, however it's pronounced in the Green Isle, and
What about McGonagall?
McGarnagle. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I highly recommend checking it out, Sean. The French Connection, very good. I don't know how Popeye Doyle and Harry would get on.
As partners.
Yeah. You know, like the Beach Boys and the Fat Boys would probably do some little rap thing or something. East Coast, West Coast cops.
Well, they did unite in Unforgiven.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so we got the old West version of the two people together anyway.
Well, I've got pages and pages more, everyone, but I might save that to the last minute. Sean, I suppose the last big question we want to ask is, where is Harry off to right now? Do you think he really is leaving the Force? Is he going to a vigil for Anne-Marie Deacon, like Dave Toschi did, the detective in the Zodiac case? Every year he'd return to the location where the taxi drive victim was killed. Where do you think Harry's off to now, literally? Like, what happens the following day?
Well, I think, in the immediate future right now, he's off to find something to eat. I think he's hungry at this point. He's looking for a hot dog, and then I don't know, is he coming back with a fishing net to try to find his badge?
And Scorpio.
I think what happens the next day is he wakes up and realizes, what else does he know? He's a cop. It's not just his job; it's who he is. What does he do if he's not, fighting crime and locking up bad guys? So I think maybe that's what he spends the next morning wondering. All right, what do I do now? And he doesn't have an answer, and then he's got to go fish out the. Or I guess they didn't have. He didn't have eBay at this time. Is there? I guess maybe there's a badge store where he can get a replacement. He's heading to. That's what he's doing tomorrow. He's heading to the badge store.
Do you think he'd ever stoop to just boring private investigation, PI type stuff?
Oh, it's really hard to say. What would Dirty Harry do if he quit the Force?
Would he be clean?
You think he'd go the complete opposite? He's going to get the most mild-mannered job possible. He's going to work in retail. Traffic cop.
Do you think he'd open a startup? He'd open a startup for car bumper stickers, Blue Lives Matter, or support your local police bumper stickers, maybe?
Open a cafe, he'll be a barista.
Security.
John, realistically, would he be in trouble?
Well, yeah. Do you think he'd plead the fifth, ironically?
Going to jail.
Read me my rights and I'll tell you. I'm not saying anything.
Well, didn't the novelizations say that the chief would have a field day with the report?
Or the DA, yeah.
The DA. After Harry wearily sits down
But
on
he's
the grass.
quit. There's no more reports. Unless you get a warrant, DA. Well, many thanks for joining us, Sean. Do you have any last-minute observations on this minute or the movie in general?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I did have one thing that, I guess I'll say a theory I have about the movie, and maybe about why Harry has to be dirty, why he has to kind of play outside the line sometimes, is I wonder if there's a mole, there's someone on the inside helping Scorpio out.
The chief. Maybe the chief is not a ghost. He's a mole.
But yeah, no, this is a very interesting movie and a good movie. One I hadn't seen for a long time. So thank you for the podcast. Well, thank you for having me on, but giving me motivation to rewatch it and seeing it through your eyes, minute by minute. It's been fun.
You're more than welcome, Sean. Where can listeners find you best? What do you like to promote the most?
Well, if you hear we talk some more, I have a podcast called The Next Scene, and you can find that at nextscenepod.com, where we cover mostly movies, but we also do TV shows and music and all kinds of other things, one scene at a time. So that's at nextscenepod.com. And then I've got some other podcasting stuff. You alluded to Spinal Tap. I did Spinal Tap Minute.
Yes.
Covering that movie in a similar format to what you're doing here. But you can find more of my podcasting stuff at catandsean.org. And that's CAT, Cat and Sean, SEAN.org. And there I have linked to my other podcasts and linked to my guest appearances so you can, see where I've been podcast-wise.
Many thanks, Sean. I highly recommend everyone check out those websites, particularly Spinal Tap Minute. I'm a big fan, Sean, and I wish... Well, there are sequels of Spinal Tap maybe you'll tackle one day. Many thanks, Sean. Tim, will you join us one day, Tim?
Sure thing.
Bartek, you join us for the final minute?
Sure, absolutely.
With your acting friend, Will?
Oh, yes.
And
yes,
Trent?
yes.
Yeah.
Before we go, as everyone knows, I like to read out a Twilight Zone themed review of Dirty Harry in my best Rod Serling voice. Missing, one police inspector. Name, Harry Francis Callahan. Description, tall, intense face, Chinese eyes. Last seen leaving Frisco City Hall, shaking his head on the day the monster came. Present location, an unmapped, extradition-free corner of the Twilight Zone. We'll catch you next time on Dirty Harry Minute.
Minute.
Yeah.